Most people think becoming one of the fastest women in the world would completely change your lifestyle. More fame, more luxury, more distractions. But Julien Alfred seems to live in the opposite direction. Even after becoming a global sprint star, her life in Texas still revolves around the same things: training, discipline, recovery, and focus. No loud celebrity image, no constant spotlight. Just a quiet routine built around getting better every single day. And maybe that's what makes her story so interesting. Because Julien Alfred doesn't move like someone chasing fame. She moves like someone afraid of wasting the opportunity she fought so hard to earn. Behind the medals and world-class speed is a much deeper story about sacrifice, pressure, and a young woman building her entire life around one goal. Because Julien Alfred did not come from a country known for producing global sprint superstars. She was born in 2001 in Cicerón, a small community in Castries, St. Lucia, a Caribbean island with a population of only around 180,000 people. The island is famous for its beauty, tourism, and beaches, not for dominating world athletics, which is why her rise feels almost unreal. As a child, Julien often ran barefoot at school and competed against boys just to prove she belonged. Long before the world knew her name, sprinting was already becoming part of her identity. But the biggest turning point in her life came far away from the track. In 2013, when Julien was just 12 years old, her father, Julian Hamilton, passed away. He had always believed deeply in her talent and often told people about how fast his daughter was. His death devastated her. For a period of time, she stopped training completely. And maybe that loss explains something important about the way she competes today. Because for Julien, sprinting was never only about medals. It became connected to grief, to purpose, to finishing a dream someone else believed in before the world ever noticed. Life at home was not easy either. Her mother, Joanna Alfred, had to raise the family largely on her own while supporting Julien and her siblings, Daniel, Chad, and Juliana. There were difficult financial periods, including moments when providing meals was a struggle. But despite that, her mother continued encouraging her daughter's athletic ambitions. Eventually, Julien understood something very early in life. If she wanted a different future, she would probably have to leave home to find it. At just 14 years old, she made the painful decision to move to Jamaica to continue pursuing sprinting seriously. The Olympic magazine also shared that moment. The sacrifice to leave my family at a tender age, the age of 14, to just chase my dreams, it was definitely a tough decision for me. And before she left, her mother placed a note inside her suitcase. Follow your dream. That small message says a lot about the journey she was beginning. Because moving away from St. Lucia meant more than training harder. It meant loneliness, different cultures, pressure, and the emotional weight of growing up far from the people who made the sacrifice possible. From Jamaica, the path eventually led her to the University of Texas on scholarship, a move that completely changed the scale of her career. But maybe the most powerful part of this story is that almost nobody expected any of it to happen. St. Lucia was never supposed to produce a sprinter like this. And perhaps that's exactly what created the hunger inside her. That every opportunity could disappear. And that if she wanted the world to notice her, she would have to run fast enough to make ignoring her impossible. Which is why her life in Texas feels so important to understanding who Julien Alfred has become. Because this is not the kind of home built for celebrity culture. It's built for control. Located in the energetic South Austin area, the house sits close to cafes, restaurants, live music venues, parks, and everyday city life. Places like Simona's, The Wheel, and Lucy's Fried Chicken are all within walking distance. But despite being surrounded by movement and noise, the home itself feels intentionally calm, almost protected from distraction. The design takes inspiration from Danish minimalism, clean lines, soft tones, and a quiet sense of order. Nothing feels excessive. Nothing screams for attention. Downstairs, polished concrete floors create a modern foundation, while upstairs, wide white oak flooring brings warmth into the more private living spaces. Massive floor-to-ceiling windows flood the house with natural light, making the interior feel open and breathable rather than crowded or heavy. And maybe that openness matters more than people realize. Because sprinting at Julien Alfred's level is not only physical, it's mental. Every detail of life starts affecting performance: sleep, recovery, stress, focus, energy. The house reflects that reality. The layout is built around flow and functionality. A floating staircase sits at the center of the open living area, while oversized sliding glass doors extend the space outward into a quiet, private backyard, somewhere to reset after training sessions, competitions, or travel. Even the kitchen feels less like a luxury statement and more like part of an athlete's system. Premium Gen Air appliances, clean surfaces, designer fixtures, and an organized layout all support a lifestyle built around preparation and routine. Upstairs, the atmosphere becomes even quieter. A flexible loft and office area overlooks the main living space below, creating a private corner for recovery, reflection, or simply being alone with thoughts after the chaos of competition. Each bedroom includes its own bathroom, allowing privacy and structure inside the home itself. And that's the deeper point here. Most people build homes to celebrate success. Julien Alfred seems to build environments that help her survive the pressure of success. Because once you become one of the fastest women in the world, life doesn't necessarily get easier. Expectations grow, pressure grows, fear of losing grows. So instead of creating a louder lifestyle, she appears to have created a quieter one. A place where everything, from the light to the space to the routine, supports one thing: performance. And maybe that's why her rise still feels unfinished, because inside that calm, controlled environment, the most dangerous version of Julien Alfred is still being built. And eventually, the world stopped seeing her as potential. It started seeing results. What began as the dream of a girl from St. Lucia suddenly turned into something much bigger: a sprinter capable of changing the balance of power in global athletics. At the University of Texas, Julien didn't just improve, she dominated. She became the first woman in NCAA history to break the 7-second barrier in the indoor 60 meters, running 6.94 seconds and setting a collegiate record. She won multiple NCAA titles across the 100 meters, 200 meters, relays, and indoor events, while helping the Texas Longhorns women's team rise to national dominance. And by 2023, the scale of her impact was undeniable. She received the Bowerman Award, the highest individual honor in collegiate track and field, often described as the equivalent of the Heisman Trophy for athletics. At that point, many analysts and Texas insiders were already calling her the greatest female sprinter in University of Texas history. But NCAA success was only the beginning. Once she stepped fully onto the professional stage, Julien Alfred improved even faster. She won the World Indoor 60-meter title in 2024 and kept rewriting St. Lucia's national records in both the 100-meter and 200-meter. Her 10.72 seconds in the 100-meter and 21.71 seconds in the 200-meter immediately placed her among the fastest women on Earth. And the consistency became just as frightening as the speed itself. Diamond League victories followed. World-leading times followed. Even in the 2026 outdoor season, she opened strongly at the Texas Invitational with a 10.93 in the 100 meters and 21.86 in the 200 meters, proving her rise was not a temporary breakthrough. It was becoming a long-term presence at the very top of sprinting. Then came the moment that changed everything for St. Lucia forever. At the Paris 2024 Olympics, Julien Alfred ran 10.72 seconds to win the women's 100 meters, earning the first Olympic gold medal in the history of St. Lucia. She later added a silver medal in the 200 meters, turning what was already a historic year into something almost unimaginable for her country. And suddenly, this was no longer only about athletics. she had become a national symbol. St. Lucia declared September 27, 2024, Julien Alfred Day. Roads were renamed in her honor. She received land, financial rewards, and even commemorative postage stamps carrying her image. A country that had rarely been mentioned in global sprint conversations was now standing at the center of one of the biggest Olympic stories in the world. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that Julien handled all of it while competing in one of the most intense eras in women's sprinting. Her rivalry with Sha'Carri Richardson quickly became one of the defining matchups of the sport. Julien's Olympic victory over the American star instantly elevated the rivalry onto a global stage, yet both athletes continued showing mutual respect publicly while pushing each other to higher levels. Which says a lot about where Julien Alfred is mentally right now. Because she's no longer running just to prove she belongs. She's competing in a space where the entire world is already watching. And still, she keeps running like someone who has something left to prove. That may be the most dangerous thing about her yet, because she didn't just win races. She forced the world to finally look at a country it had spent decades overlooking in sprinting. But what happened after the Olympic spotlight is what makes Julien Alfred feel so different from many modern sports stars. Instead of expanding her life after Paris 2024, she started simplifying it. By 2026, Julien continues living and training in Austin, Texas, under coach Edric Floreal. The structure of her life remains strict, but now there is more awareness around recovery, rest, and emotional balance. After the pressure-heavy 2025 season, she intentionally stepped away from track for periods of time, returning to St. Lucia to be with family, traveling to places like Germany, and allowing herself to detach completely from athletics mentally before rebuilding focus again. That decision says a lot about how she now views success. Because for Julien, the goal is no longer just running fast, it's surviving the pressure that comes with becoming a global symbol. She has openly spoken about wanting to compete for Julien first, instead of constantly carrying the emotional expectations of an entire nation. For an athlete from a country as small as St. Lucia, that mental adjustment matters enormously. And maybe that's why privacy has become such an important part of her life. Julien describes herself as very shy and very private. Unlike many elite athletes, she does not appear interested in turning herself into a full-time public personality. Her Instagram account, @julien.alfred, stays relatively quiet, mostly focused on training clips, motivational moments, and sponsor partnerships with Puma, rather than personal exposure or online drama. Even her daily life in Texas reflects that same mindset. Training, recovery, routine. She once explained that she prefers to mind my own business and do my own thing. At home, her family even avoids constantly discussing track and field, helping create a space emotionally separate from competition. And that separation feels intentional. So while many athletes become louder after fame, Julien Alfred seems to be becoming quieter. And maybe that's the real reason she continues getting stronger, because the more attention she receives from the world, the more carefully she protects the private life that keeps her grounded. But protecting peace becomes much harder when an entire country starts depending on your success emotionally. Because after Paris 2024, Julien Alfred was no longer just an athlete representing St. Lucia. She became a national symbol, the first Olympic gold medalist in the country's history, a source of pride for an entire island, a name suddenly carrying expectations far bigger than sprinting itself. And behind the celebrations, that pressure became overwhelming at times. Julien later admitted that after winning Olympic gold, she reached a point where she nearly walked away from athletics completely. In an interview with Olympics.com, she revealed, "I felt like I had to win every single time." That sentence explains a lot about the invisible side of elite sprinting. At the highest level of sprinting, pressure builds fast. Julien has spoken openly about feeling emotionally overwhelmed, experiencing breakdowns, and even considering canceling an entire season because of exhaustion and self-doubt, especially surrounding the 200 meters. And this is where Coach Edric Floreal became crucial. Not only as a technical coach, but as someone helping her survive the emotional side of elite performance. Through visualization techniques, mental reset strategies, and teaching her how to relax under pressure, he helped stabilize her during periods where confidence became fragile. Because sprinting is brutally psychological. One bad race can change confidence. One small injury can disrupt rhythm. A few difficult training sessions can create panic. In an interview with Sidious Mag, Julien admitted, "The pressure didn't stop there. It was even worse. Now you're expected to go into 2025 and do well." For someone naturally shy and private, suddenly becoming the face of headlines, interviews, and national expectations created a completely new kind of emotional fatigue. Even while opening the 2026 season strongly, with world-leading performances including 21.86 in the 200 meters and 10.93 in the 100 meters at the Texas Invitational, Julien remains aware of how fragile peak form can be. Because in sprinting, reaching the top once is difficult. Staying there is terrifying. And maybe that's the deepest reality hidden behind her success. And perhaps that's the real story behind her rise. Not simply becoming one of the fastest women in the world, but learning how to survive the pressure that comes with it. So what do you think? Is Julien Alfred's greatest strength her natural talent? Or the discipline and emotional control she's building away from the spotlight?